So that's what today's about. I'm going to walk you through a framework that makes this simple and makes it doable. Okay. Even if you've struggled with it for years. Okay. I call it the shift framework because it literally helps you shift in the moment from stress and stuckness into clarity, momentum, and aligned action. Okay. So I want to break it down with you. And this is going to change the way that you relate to self-sabotage. So most people think that sabotage means they're doing something wrong. They're not disciplined enough, whatever the case may be. It's not the truth. We have that old pattern, and this is going to help you to move from that stuckness to more aligned action. So when we're looking at this shift framework, the first letter of shift is S, right? So S in this case is going to stand for spot the pattern, okay? When sabotage shows up, it usually feels like procrastination, overthinking, distraction, or shutting down, okay? Might even feel like numbing in some cases. It's not random. It's like I said before, it's that safety mechanism. So, if any of you have read like Mel Robbins' book, The 5 Second Rule, she talks about how in 5 seconds flat, the brain can kill any new idea and keep you in comfort, right? And then if any of you have read the book, The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk, he talks about how your body literally remembers stress and reacts before you even think. It's quick. It's really, really quick. So the first step is to spot the pattern. It's amazing how big of a difference maker awareness is. Okay. Literally, when I was on my group call earlier this week with my clients, almost everybody's win had to do with an area of their life where their awareness allowed them to respond differently instead of react. And another noticing or awareness of what a difference that made in that area of their life, how these patterns were beginning to break for them. So it's definitely not something to be discounted, awareness. So if you want to spot the pattern for yourself, let's just try this for a second. If you feel comfortable or if you're in a place where you can do it, obviously if you're not driving or something, close your eyes if you're in a comfortable place to do that. And just ask yourself the question, when I sabotage myself, where do I feel it in my body? And just let an answer come to you. Do you feel it in your chest? Do you get butterflies? Is there tension in your jaw? Where do you feel it in your body? Feel free to pop it in the chat if you want to share, but naming what you feel and what happens is a really good first step for awareness with that. Okay, I'm gonna check up on the chat here because I haven't been looking at it. Forehead and chest, okay. Chest and shoulders. Butterflies in the tummy right now. Usually anger though. Yeah, that's such a great awareness. Such a great awareness. Chest and stomach, throat and hips, tight jaw and stomach dropping like on a ride. How interesting. And like, what if you could actually just reframe it that it is just a ride? I don't know. So cool. The next letter in the shift acronym, okay? So the next letter is H. And in this case, this stands for harness the body, okay? Too often we leave the body out of the equation. We think we're trying to do things, be productive, get a thing done. What does this have to do with it? A lot, okay? You cannot outthink sabotage, procrastination, etc. The things that are basically standing in the way of you becoming the person that you want to be and accomplishing the things that are important to you, okay? You have to go through the body first. So Peter Levine, who is not actually a relative of mine, created somatic experiencing. And he talks about how you have to like discharge the survival energy that's stuck in the nervous system. Okay. So you can think about that. It's kind of easy sometimes if you're in the middle of like one of these moments where you're procrastinating, or you can just feel that resistance. It can be as simple as just kind of like putting a hand over your chest, taking a deep breath. We can just do this together. Just put your hand over your chest and take a big deep breath in, maybe through your nose, and then like an audible sigh out through your mouth. Okay. And just that one breath, and it has a way of helping you to discharge a little bit of that survival energy and get back into your body. Okay. And even like just micro tapping. Like I don't know how many of you here are familiar with the practice of EFT. If you've come to my workshops or if you've explored the school resources, you've probably tapped along with me on another video or in another workshop. But with tapping, and we're going to do some together, a more complete version of this later in the workshop. But we're using the ancient Chinese medicine and acupuncture points, along with modern day psychology to discharge energetic blockages so that we feel better. So even just a quick tapping on the sides of your hands or on these points on the top of your head while you state what's going on, even though I feel overwhelmed, I choose to come back into my body and it's safe for me to pause. Something as simple as that can help interrupt the pattern. See, and that was just literally a breath and 10 seconds of tapping. And it can bring your awareness to a different level where you can choose differently. And that kind of thing alone, and it sounds so silly, right? That kind of thing can prevent you from going on a 45-minute TikTok scroll or losing your time to some, binge watching Netflix or something instead of doing what you want to do. It can bring you back to what matters and help you choose differently. So silly as it might sound, or minuscule as it might sound, it can be a big difference maker. So let's move to the I in shift, which is interrupt the script. Okay? Because sabotage isn't just physical, it's mental, right? We have an inner script that runs when we're about to take action. Maybe it's something like, oh, I'll just fail anyway, or I don't have enough time, or it's not going to work for me. Your mind always does what it thinks you want it to do. Okay? If you keep feeding it old commands, your mind's just going to keep obeying them. And this is why our negative self-talk and our subconscious patterns are so important to break through. And this is why I adore hypnotherapy, because for me and for a lot of my clients, it has been a big difference maker when it comes to changing these subconscious loops. So if you have a pen or a writing surface or something, maybe you just write right now the first sabotaging thought that comes up for you normally. Feel free to share in the chat too. I'm guessing there probably are going to be a lot of similarities between what a lot of people have as their sabotaging thoughts, or usually are. And usually at the heart of most of them is some kind of an idea that you're not enough in some capacity. Okay. So yeah, once you have that written down, then ask yourself, what is a more empowering truth? Okay. So for example, if you say something like, I'll fail anyway, like I mentioned before, then maybe you might say, well, how about what if every small step I take builds momentum? I always like the subconscious questions too. If you were at last month's workshop, when we talked about frequency fueled manifestation, we talked a lot about the power of subconscious questions. So even if you reframe that into, what would it take for these steps that I'm taking to build momentum? And then guess what happens? Your subconscious mind looks for those answers instead of looking for reasons why you'll fail anyway. So you can send your mind on a hunt one way or another. Let it hunt for something that you want instead of something that you don't. So yeah, some good ones here in the chat. I don't feel like it. Yeah. You can't do it. I don't know what I'm doing. Gotcha. I can't do it. ADHD distraction or lack of time management. What's wrong with you? There's some other people chiming in, they feel that way too. Yeah, these are all like super common, right? So what might you say that would be different than that? And then so here's how these things start to come together. You start to repattern with things like this, and then because of what you did with S in spotting the pattern, you start to notice. And then you have these moments. I had this happen with one of my clients the other day, and she messaged me, and it was one of those things where she was used to telling herself like, oh, you're so stupid and that kind of stuff when she would do something and it wasn't working out. And Instead, she caught herself saying, I forget how she put it. Oh, what it was like a very British way of putting it, and I'm gonna get it wrong. And it was so cute. But it came down to pretty much like, I'm freaking brilliant. It was, and that's what came out both in her mind and from her mouth at the same time. But then she had the wherewithal to notice, oh, this is totally a place where I would have said previously, oh, you're so stupid. And instead, I said this. So without the awareness, the shifts don't matter a whole lot. Okay. So then we want to move on to the F here. Okay. Our F in the SHIFT acronym is focus forward. Okay. Once you've interrupted that old pattern, your job is to point your energy forward. Okay. I know a lot of you have read James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. Okay. And that's one where he teaches that, small identity-based actions stack up into massive change, which is totally true. So instead of asking, what big thing do I have to achieve? Just ask, who do I want to be in this next moment? And align yourself with becoming that person. Okay. So again, if you're in a place and space where closing your eyes is comfortable and you want to, then just close your eyes for a moment and visualize yourself at the end of this week. We're pretty much there, depending on what you look at as the end of the week. And imagine yourself having let go of overwhelm. Imagine yourself having finished one aligned thing that you've been putting off. And just feel the relief and the pride in your body. This is focusing forward, and this is aligning with the energy of the wish fulfilled, which is what magnetizes it in real time into our present moments. This is why we do visualizations. This is why we kind of come up with all of those. It's interesting because we come up with all these details and things so that we can connect better to what we want to manifest into our lives. But then we actually need to detach from those cursed hows and details and things in order to bring it in. So the details and the imagining is really about creating the emotion that dials up your frequency and your vibration so that you can align with what you want or better. Okay. So focus forward. And then the last letter in SHIFT is T. So this is where we're going to train. We're going to train it in. We're going to train consistency. Okay. Because this last step is where the magic kind of compounds. Okay. I'm a big Joe Dispenza fan. He says that when you emotionally rehearse a new reality every day, that is where you literally rewire your subconscious. Okay. So like kind of what we just did with that visualization. And that's a rehearsal. Okay. So this final step is to train consistency. Instead of waiting for motivation, don't do that, guys. It's the best way to like never start anything. Anchor a daily ritual that rewires your nervous system. Okay. It could look like 10 minutes a day of tapping or some breath work or listening to a hypnotic audio or doing your own visualization or even the vision casting process that I laid out in last month's workshop. And just imagine if you practice this shift process just once a day for like the next week. How different would your energy, how different would your results be and feel in just that short period of time?